Hi guys, it's Debbie, and today I'm here to speak about the new trailer of John Wick Chapter 2, which has just recently been released. John Wick is the story of a retired hitman whose wife has just recently passed away. So his wife Helen has died for an unspecified illness. Just before her death though, she left John a really sweet puppy to remind him of her and also to help him cope with grief. So obviously this puppy, Daisy, means the absolute world to John. He loves it, it's the only connection he has left with his wife. Unfortunately though, one night a group of Russian gang members enter John's house, knock him unconscious, steal his car and brutally kill his dog. Soon these Russian members learn that John used to be the best assassin for the gang they actually belong to. He is the most dangerous person probably in town. So obviously they're very frightened when they discover this. And now this is the point in which the film goes absolutely, totally wrong. Because instead of creating a compelling story where John really wants to take revenge on these gang members, but also tries to stop himself from entering the underworld he so hardly tried to come out of, his feelings of being torn between grief for his wife's death and his dog's death and still wanting to punish these people, and also showing John's feelings when he's terribly torn by grief but also he really has this anger inside him. Instead of all of this, John just personally decides to shoot his way through town until he manages to find these Russian gang members. So his character is totally limited to just mindless, emotionless shooting and action. And his feelings, which should play a very important part in this film, are very limited to just the scenes in which he is sad for his wife's death or the dog's death. There's not even anger in his actions, it's just this robotic, mindless shooting. And even all the other characters, the secondary characters, have no background information, they are poorly described, and they're just limited to some minor dialogue, which is obviously exposition, so we get to know who John Wick is and what his past is, that he was a hitman for this gang. The trailer for the second chapter is just as bad as the first film. So in this new trailer we see John travelling to Rome, where he will be again involved in some sort of action. John is forced to return to the underworld that he so hardly tried to leave behind and continue his work as a hitman, although he did try to leave all this behind him. We do have some hope of a better film compared to the first one, because John Wick Chapter 2 will feature Lawrence Fishburne. So hopefully the screen combo of Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne will work the magic as they did on the set of The Matrix, in which they co-starred. And so hopefully we will get to see maybe some better dialogue, maybe something a little more deeper, because that's what in the end let me down of John Wick. The fact that it was so empty, the fact that it didn't have any compelling storyline, it didn't have a good plot, it was just limited. That's the feeling that really let me down. Also, we have gigantic plot holes. Let's just take for example the fact that how did the Russian gang members find out where John lived without even discovering who he actually was? He was the main assassin, which actually created the foundations for their gang. And the scene in which John is at the club, the bartender actually says that it's only been 4 years since the last time he's been in there. Seriously, weren't these guys actually in the gang 4 years ago? Some of them, like the least age they are is probably around my age or slightly younger. They can't have been that small when he was in the gang. Even the police knows who he is. When a policeman turns up at his house and sees 12 bodies on the floor, he just turns around and leaves the house. John is completely feared around town, feared and respected. He's allowed to enter a runway just to drive his car with his puppy. Surely these gang members must have known who he was, especially after he answered them in completely fluent Russian. And I imagine that again in this second film there will be some bulletproof material ex machina which will allow the plot to continue. Because as we see in the first film, John can single-handedly kill 12 hitmen in the middle of the night, but suddenly when he has his main target in front of him in a hot tub, the hot tub is suddenly surrounded by bulletproof glass which prevents him from killing his target and allowing the film to continue. I know I'm so boring, the film would have been just 20 minutes long, but why not create something more interesting? It's not because I don't like action. Let's take, for example, another film with the same elements. So, for example, Salt. It's still an action film. We do have Russian mafia, and we have characters which nobody's very sure on which side they stand. And this film was developed in a completely different way. The story is different, okay, but the elements are similar, and look at the differences. Salt has a good plot, it has an international chase, it has elements of doubt and debate surrounding what is wrong and what is right, surrounding the nature of these characters. How about all the Tarantino films in which half of the characters are killed? It's just a completely different way of developing the plot. Tarantino loves violence. He has this concept of the beauty in violence. So his films rotate a lot around violence, but he gives us something extra to his movies. He gives us a lot of background information, a lot of dialogue, and also his violence is exaggerated on purpose to convey that what he considers beauty in violence. I love Keanu Reeves' acting. He's a really good actor, so it was so painful seeing him limited to this mindless shooting robot. Have you ever seen the film Shoot 'Em Up? The one with Clive Owen killing people and eating carrots, and while Monica Bellucci and the baby look on him. That's more or less how this film is. It's just this mindless action. Let me know what your expectations are for the new chapter of John Wick with a comment here below, and I'll see you soon in a new video. Bye!